Am I the only one who can't quit thinking about Aladdin right now? I'm sitting in the back, and I'm pretty sure I saw like a married couple like lean in like during that song, like, I can show you the world. Anyway, what's up, 10 a.m.? Are you happy to be here? Me too. Isn't it good to just be in the basement? I feel like I needed church today. You ever have a day like that? You need church? And there's something like special about the basement. And so if this is your first time here, welcome to our basement. I think this is the only place where you can get your church on and the smell of subs at the same time, right? This is the basement, but we're so glad that you're here if this is your first time here. If you're joining us online, what is up, online family? Here's some people who have been tuning in already this morning. Hollis Fickett on the road. Hollis is driving, you guys, all right? Which, does that sound dangerous? Aren't you glad you're not on the road because Hollis is watching while he's on the road? Anyway, Ellis, what's going on, Ellis? Floyd Smith in Southampton, Pennsylvania. Does anybody know where Southampton is? Nope, me neither. All right, what's up, Floyd? Andrew Bailey down in Florida. There's all these people watching online. So can you guys give it up for our first-time guests and everybody joining us online right now? I love it. Hey, I feel like preaching today. Is that okay with you? And it's a little hot under these lights, so I'm going to preach. So I got to take my sweatshirt off so I can like get into this thing. Okay. Derek is leaving, all right? Is anybody concerned like I am that I'm wearing a Steelers shirt right now? Anybody? Is anybody happy about this? You're excited about this? Just trying to see who to pray for. Right back here. It's not an Eagles shirt. All right, it's a Steelers shirt. And listen, I didn't even know they would let you into church wearing a shirt like this. I thought that the registration table upstairs, that was to keep Steelers fans out. That's what I've asked them to do at least. But here's why I'm wearing this shirt. We reopened or regathered 7 weeks ago, and I told you guys on week one, there was like 30 or 40 people who came on week one. I said, listen, if you guys will keep coming, if you'll keep inviting people, and if we fill one service so we have to go to 2 services, I will preach in a Steelers shirt. Because listen, I will do anything short of sin to reach people for Jesus. Now, this is on the line. It's probably over the line just a little bit. But anyway, last Sunday, over 100 people showed up to church. Isn't that crazy? We had our volunteers in an overflow room. We kind of turned our lobby into an overflow room. And so so we are filling up quick. Like kids service for this week filled up in less than 24 hours when we opened up registration. And we're totally full today. And so maybe you're sitting in the parking lot right now because they didn't let you in. I don't really know how that worked. But anyway, on October 4th, we're going back to 9 and 10:30 people. So, how many of you are early birds? You like the early service? All right, over here, all the responsible people. Okay. You can come to the 9 o'clock in 2 weeks, and then you can go to Bob Evans, still get your breakfast on or your brunch, whatever you're going to do. How many of you, you're the 10:30? You're 10:30? Oh, the lazy people in the room. Okay. So, 2 weeks on 10-4, you have 9 and 10:30. Bayshore Kids experience both. And so, if you follow me, if you're with me, say 10-4. 10-4. 10-4. And by the way, if you would like to help us out in Bayshore Babies and Kids, we opened up an extra room today just because we filled up in less than 24 hours. But if you would like to volunteer or re-up and volunteer again, we've made volunteering back in Bayshore Kids easier than it's ever been because our very own Kristen Cordray, our director, she does a video of the lesson. So she teaches a lesson through video that we show the kids each week. And so our volunteers don't have to be like, pastor, whatever. You just get to facilitate and do crafts and get the kids to like have fun on the little rugs. And so it's a lot of fun. And so if you want to volunteer, see me after the service, see Kristen after the service, or go to bayshore.online and you can go to the Connect card and just let us know that you want to fill in and volunteer so we can get more and more kids in here because kids are our next generation and we can't wait to serve you guys in 2 weeks for 2 services. So 10-4. 10-4. All right. So we're in this series called keep your head up, and we're going to have a communion party today, if that's okay with you. Does that sound good? All right. Maybe that sounds weird to you, because maybe you're like used to church where you're made to feel bad about yourself, or, where you fall asleep during the communion talk. But here's what I think. I think if we can have tailgate parties and Zoom parties and gender reveal parties, where you put like blue dust in the back of your truck exhaust and like, it's a boy. I think if we have those sort of parties, we as a church should be able to throw down and party to remember what Jesus has done for us. Is anybody with me on that? So we're going to have a little communion party today. And to start out the communion party, I got a question for you. Have you ever seen something so crazy that while you're watching it, you're thinking like, is this for real right now? Is this really happening right now? Has this ever happened to you where you're just like blown away by what you're experiencing? Every day. Some of you are like, yeah, there's something crazy right now. I'm sitting in church, all right? So I got tricked into coming here, but let me retell you a story that I told you guys a couple years ago. It's one of my favorite stories of just something crazy that I experienced. And this is 100% true. This is not a preacher's story, which I don't really like that phrase. It's not a preacher's story. It doesn't really say a lot of good things about preachers. But anyway, this is a true story. It happened a couple years ago, and it was a Sunday that everything started. And we had just got done with a series here called Chasing Happy. Anybody remember that? No? Just my mom? Okay, no worries. So we got done with the series, and I'm feeling good because the series went good. And so on my way home, I just wanted to celebrate a little bit. So I stopped by my very favorite gas station to pick up my very favorite thing in the world, which is an ice cold. This is a church that knows their pastor. So I got my Mountain Dew, and I go home. Life is good. And when I get home, my wife, Stacy, she said to me, "Hey, babe, you want to go to the pool?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And so we loaded up to go to this neighborhood pool that we had access to in Bethany. And when we got there, it was one of those summer days where it was packed. All right, this was before pools were closed because of social distancing. You could actually go to a pool, people. And it was packed, and there was all these people, but I'm good. I got my family with me. My kids got their puddle jumpers on. I got my ice cold Mountain Dew. So we're just at this pool. And when I get there, I noticed that the normal lifeguard is not there. But there is a lifeguard there, and she is a super lifeguard. You can tell by the amount of zinc on her nose. She is, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it is covered, man. And so she's a super lifeguard. And so we sit down, I see this super lifeguard, and I also see this person who's sitting next to us, and he's an older man. And I'm not going to say how old, because you might be older, okay? So anyway, he's sitting next to us. And I watch this older guy, and he throws a ball that's about the size of a tennis ball. He throws it to one of his friends, and super lifeguard sees it. And she immediately blew her whistle so loud that you probably heard it that summer 2 years ago. She blew her whistle, and she said, "Sir, there is no ball throwing at the pool." And like, what was he thinking? Throwing a pool ball at a pool. Okay, so he threw the ball, and she yelled at him, and then, we're just sitting there, we're like, that was intense. And a few minutes went by, and this guy, and I don't know if he forgot or he was just being a little rebellious, he throws the ball again to his friend. And super lifeguard, you know what she did? Okay, have you ever seen a bottle rocket go in the air and absolutely explode? Okay, she exploded. She blew her whistle. She's like, "Sir, I told you there was no ball throwing. You were kicked out of the pool for the day." She kicked the guy out of the pool for the day. And this guy, okay, you want to know how he reacted? You ever seen a bottle rocket go in the air and explode? He said, "Lady, you need to get a grip. All I did was throw a ball to my friend." He said, "I'm not going anywhere." And she said, "I'm going to call the police." And he said, true story, he said, "You can call the President of the United States if you want. I'm not going anywhere." And she had taken his ball. He walks up to her and snatches the ball out of her hands. I'm like, "Honey, I am so glad we came to the pool today." And I'm just like sitting in the corner with my Mountain Dew like. And at this point, okay, he says he's not leaving. She's going to call the police, whatever. At this point, people at the pool started siding with the older guy. And so they start telling the super lifeguard with zinc everywhere, they're like, hey, just chill out, breathe, just maybe reapply your zinc or something. True story. She blows her whistle and she says, the pool is closed for everyone. At which point, over half the people in protest jump into the pool. My parents were with me, and if I'm lying, I'm dying. Our lead pastor, my dad, jumped into the pool. I'm like, Dad, Pastor Dad, at least take off your Bayshore shirt or something. He jumped into the pool, and these two, while everybody's in the pool protesting, these two just went at it for over an hour. The HOA president came. Half the board came. Everybody was going to sue everybody. I'm like, honey, I've never had a day like this. Is the greatest pool day ever. And by the end of the whole thing, the lifeguard, she thought that she had been wrong, so she thought the old man needed to pay. So she wanted him kicked out of the pool for life, like a lifetime ban. The old guy, he thought he had been wrong, so he thought that the lifeguard needed to pay, so he was going to sue her. And it's just like this back and forth thing. And I tell you all that because when something wrong happens, and they both thought something wrong happened to them, when something wrong happens, everyone believes this, and we'll put it on the screen. Somebody's got to pay. Right? Somebody's got to pay. Now, you believe this. Everyone believes this. When something wrong happens, we believe somebody's got to pay. And let me give you an example. Let's say that after church today, you go home to watch some football, to watch the Steelers, the stinking Steelers lose. Listen, I got to just balance this out. I got a Ravens cup here. Just give me a moment, okay, with my Ravens cup. I just feel bad what I'm doing. Anyway, let's just say after church, you go watch the football game, and you sit down on your couch, and you go to turn on the TV, and your TV's not there. Because during church, somebody broke into your house and they stole your TV off the wall. You're not going to be like, oh, well, bless their heart. They probably needed my TV more than I needed it. No, you're going to be like, lock them up. An eye for an eye and a TV for a TV. Because when something wrong happens, we all believe that somebody's got to pay. I'll prove it even more, okay? Does anybody here have an iPhone they'll let me borrow? Anybody have an iPhone they'll let me borrow? All the way in the back. Anybody up closer? Maybe you're like, I have an Android. No, thanks. It's cool. I'm going to take yours. Now, we're social distancing. So I'm going to put my glove on here. Oh, I put my finger in the wrong hole. Okay, look. Sorry. I'm not going to fix it now, all right? I'm on the stage, so let's just roll. All right. Hey, thanks for letting me trust you. Thank you for trusting me with this. Do you have insurance on this phone? You do. Okay, good. That's good that you have insurance, because I have another part of this illustration that I didn't show you when I first asked for you. So I got a hammer here, and insurance will cover. And they'll give you most of it back. I'm not sure. Are your contacts on here? Probably. Okay. All right. Listen, if I were to hit your phone right now, would you be like, oh, let's not judge the pastor. He probably had a little too much Mountain Dew this morning. Would you do that? No. You would be like, listen, I know I'm not holding, listen, I did it wrong. Sanitize this later, please. Thank you, Christine. We're having fun in church. I said we're going to have a party. We're going to go a little long today because all this was not in the notes. Anyway, you would be mad if I did. You would say, you better run, Rev, right? Like, you would not be happy if I smashed this right now, right? Okay, I'm going to give this back. Okay. All right, my point is this. Thank you. When something wrong happens, everyone believes somebody's got to pay. If somebody hurts your kid, or you see an injustice happen, what goes off inside of you? Somebody's got to pay. Because everyone believes when something wrong happens, somebody's got to pay. And that idea sets up our communion party today. And so we're going to go all the way back to the very beginning of the Bible, to Genesis, with a guy named Adam. And I want to show you the very first thing that God ever said to people. And this is just kind of fascinating. Genesis chapter 2, starting in verse 16. It says, "And the Lord God commanded the man, Adam, 'You are free.'" Pause. Did you know that the first 3 words God ever said to us wasn't, "Don't do that"? It wasn't, "I call you." It wasn't, "Hey, you better not throw the pool ball at the pool." It was, "You are free." Because right out of the gate, God wanted us to know, hey, you should be able to experience, or you can experience, freedom from shame, freedom from condemnation, freedom from judgment. First 3 words are, "You are free." I love the first 5 words that God spoke. You are free to eat. Come on now. I might drive by a Five Guys on the way home. I'm going to start quoting the Bible like, I'm free to eat. Just going to pull in here. But he says, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden, Adam. But you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For when you eat from it, you will certainly die. In other words, Adam, don't eat from that tree because that's wrong. And just so you know, somebody's got to pay, because when something wrong happens, everyone believes that somebody's got to pay. And after this, Eve shows up. And Eve shows up. When she does, Adam and Eve have like this amazing, garden wedding. And they like send invitations out to all their friends to come. And nobody comes because there wasn't anybody else, just those two. So they have this lonely wedding by themselves. And then they have their honeymoon. And it's amazing. And we all know what happens next, Adam and Eve sitting in a tree. Kissing. Then up came a serpent like a water hose and said, Eve, why don't you get Adam to eat one of those? A little too much Sunday school for me as a kid growing up. Anyway, so Eve ate from that tree, and then Adam ate from that tree. And I've had people ask me before, how did Eve convince Adam to eat from that tree? And the answer to that is simple. A naked woman with fruit can get a man to do anything she wants him to do. Don't give me that nervous laughter. Just reading the Bible. Anyway. So they ate. They ate the fruit. And watch this. Genesis chapter 3, verse 7. It says, then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked, or as my dad puts it, naked. And so they sewed fig leaves together, and what'd they do? Made coverings for themselves. And so they sinned, and the very first thing they did is they tried to cover it up on the outside. Does that sound familiar? That's exactly what we do. When we mess up, when we sin, we try to cover it up on the outside. But don't miss this. God doesn't care about what's going on the outside. He cares about what's going on the inside. And they sinned, and all sin is this. Sin is when we fall short of God's standards. Now, quick question. Who here has ever, in your entire lifetime, you sinned before? Come on, let's see your hands. Have you ever sinned before? Oh, my goodness. It's a good thing we're going to 2 services. You need to stay for both services that week, okay? Give me a little pinky if you know that the person next to you sins, okay? A lot. Come on. Rob's like, hand up. Just forget the pinky. I'm going to put my foot up in there like all of them. Listen, we all fall short of God's standards. Do you know how I know that? Because we fall short of our own standards. Have you ever started a diet on Monday and ate nachos on Tuesday? Right? Well, one of my favorite stories was from a couple years ago. I was out to lunch with Jeremy, our campus pastor from Fenwick. He was the one in the video just a few moments ago. And earlier in the day, it was like a Monday, earlier in the day, Jeremy had told me that he had just become a vegetarian. Which is cool. If you're a vegetarian, I think that's cool. You can be a vegetarian, a pescatarian, a libertarian, whatever. You do you. And I would be a vegetarian too if I could just eat guac all day. But I can't afford the avocados, okay? That's the most expensive thing in the entire world. But anyway, so Jeremy had told me earlier in the day he was just becoming a vegetarian. And so that day for lunch, I was like, hey, Jeremy, I'm going to run into town. Do you want to go to lunch with me and eat whatever vegetarians eat, salad, I don't know. And He's like, yeah. And so we went up into town, and we're standing in Arby's. And they have salads on the menu, but on the menu, they also have a big picture of a turkey sandwich. And I'm standing next to Jeremy, and I'm just watching him look at that turkey sandwich. And he's looking at it like Adam was looking at Eve, man. Like he's just having a moment with his turkey sandwich. But I'm like, he just became a vegetarian. We're good. He gets up, and he says, I'm going to take that turkey sandwich right there. And he looked at me and said, I'll become a vegetarian tomorrow. And listen, if we can't keep our own standards, we're going to fall short of God's standards. And that's called sin, okay? And I wish I could stand up here and just tell you I'm so over this sin thing. But I cannot do that. If you're looking for a pastor or a church where the pastor is your hero, you're at the wrong church. Because I am as jacked up as anyone. You want to hear a story about it? Normally the church is a little too enthusiastic to hear my sinful stories. But anyway, true story. It was about a month ago. I was in my car. We're driving through this neighborhood, and my kids are with me. No one ever told me that when you have kids that you don't get to listen to your music ever again. Like my kids think I'm their personal DJ. Any parents, you know what I'm talking about? The whole time it's like, put on, what does the fox say? Baby shark, baby shark. I mean, the whole time it's all this stuff. And so I'm driving my car through this neighborhood. I'm taking requests from the back because my kids think I'm like DJ Tice or something. So I'm like taking requests. And Nixon, my son, said, Daddy, I want to hear Old Church Choir, which is his favorite song. Loves Old Church Choir. And that's a Jesus song. So I'm like feeling spiritual because we turned on Old Church Choir. My boy requested it. We're just having this good moment. And we're riding through this neighborhood. And I see this older lady walking her dog in the neighborhood. And the reason I noticed her at first is because she had Gilligan pants on. You guys remember Gilligan's Island? You remember that? Okay. All right. So you remember Gilligan had these bell-bottom things. Anyway, she's rocking these big pants, and I'm like, I noticed that. And I'm thinking oh, there's this sweet old lady walking her dog. And so as I'm driving by her, she's walking her dog. I literally slowed down to 5 miles an hour. And I got to the complete opposite side of the road to give her plenty of space. And I said to my kids, I'm like, just wave to the little old sweet lady. And so we're going, and the kids wave to her, and she waves back. It's a true story. She waves back, and she says, stop. And I'm like, okay. And so I roll down my window, and Old Church Choir comes out. We're having this moment. And little sweet old lady turned into mean lady. And she looked at me, and out of nowhere, she's like, you almost ran over me and my dog. Did you not see us? And I'm so taken back. I'm just like, and mind you, I'm going 5 miles an hour. I'm on the opposite side of the road, but it's a sweet little old lady. I'm not going to say anything. And so I'm like, this is fine. But she went on to just chew me out for 2 minutes. And she pressed the wrong pastor button, people. And I wish I could stand up here and say, what I did is I stopped and I prayed for her. And I took out my Bible and I said, man, there's this thing called salvation. And there's a man named Jesus, and he loves you so much. And she's sitting on the front row today. I wish I could say that, but I got into it with a little old lady. And we're playing Old Church Choir in the car. And I don't remember what I said, but I toned it down a little bit. But there was buttons being pressed in me. And then after I kind of got into it, I was like, ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm the pastor at Solid Ground Church over in Lewis. That's who I am. But I tell you that because I am jacked up. And you might think well, you shouldn't tell the church that. Then people won't follow you. Listen, I don't want you to follow me. I want you to follow Jesus. He's the only one that you can follow. He's the only perfect one. You need to follow him because we are all sinners. We are all jacked up. And when Adam and Eve sinned by eating from the wrong tree, the first thing they did is they tried to cover themselves up with fig leaves. We cover ourselves up with fake smiles and fake lines. Maybe you relapsed last night when you walk into church, we got big smiles on and somebody says, how you doing? We're like, oh, I am blessed and highly favored. The only thing you can do for me is pray because my back hurts because I've been carrying this big Bible so much this week. And we try to cover up things on the outside. But God looks at what's going on the inside. And so they sin, and when somebody does something wrong, what happens? Somebody's got to pay, right? And so let's look at verse 21. It says this, and the Lord God made clothing from what? Animal skins for Adam and his wife. Now, for years I looked at that and didn't think anything about it. I'm like, okay, God made some clothes, did a little Armani stitching or whatever. But here's what theologians and people way smarter than me believe about this animal skin line right here. Okay, 3 things. Number 1, they believe that this is the first time anything was killed on earth. First time blood was ever shed. Number 2, they believe that God killed this thing. And number 3, they believe that this animal was probably an innocent lamb. And so this is big, this is big, this is big. God killed an innocent lamb so that those 3 words he said to us from the start, you are free, could still be true. You are free from shame. You are free from judgment. You are free from condemnation. You are free. But when something wrong happens, somebody's got to pay, and an innocent lamb paid. And you can trace that all the way back to Genesis chapter 3. That's wild, right? Now, let's fast forward real quick to Exodus. And maybe you know the story, okay? There's the Israelites are enslaved in Egypt. And there's this guy named Pharaoh, and Pharaoh is mean, like little old lady on the road yelling at me, mean, okay, mean. And he mistreats slaves. He has slaves killed. He wants all the Israelites to throw their baby boys into the Nile River to have them killed. And I don't care if you're a Jesus follower or not, like we can all agree that's wrong, right? And when there's wrong, somebody's got to pay. And so God sends Moses to Pharaoh to get that sin paid for. And so God says one night, after a lot of plagues and different things, God says one night, I'm going to pass over Egypt, and to pay for this wrong, I'm going to kill the firstborn son of every living creature. Now, how many of you in here, you are not the firstborn son? You are not the firstborn son? Not the firstborn son? Half the ladies aren't raising their hand. Okay, this is the gimme. If you're a lady, you're not the firstborn son. Okay, ladies, raise your hand. There we go. All right. My goodness. How many of you are not the firstborn son? Okay, there we go. This is good news for you. Okay, if you have an older brother who is the firstborn son, this is the moment to call dibs on something they have that you want. My brother has a 1988 Ford Bronco. Okay, I'm going to take the Ford Bronco, Tim. But if I'm the firstborn son, if I'm my brother, I'm thinking like, this is not good. Like, is there an escape clause, God? And here's what you need to know. We'll put this on the screen. There's always a way out from God's judgment. There's always a way out from God's judgment. You want to see the Israelites' way out? The Israelites' way out starts in Exodus chapter 12, verse 21. It says, then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel, and he said to them, go at once and select the animals for your families and do what? Slaughter the Passover lamb. Now, what did God make animal skins out of, or animal clothes out of in Genesis 3? Lamb, right? And so we got a lamb here again. And it goes on and says, take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood of that lamb, dip it into the lamb's blood in the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and on both sides of the doorframe. And none of you shall go out of your house until morning. Now, if I'm the firstborn son, I'm like, got it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay in this house. I'm going to watch Full House. I ain't leaving this house because you said there's things out there, and I'm not just going to stay in this house. And the reason they wanted to stay in this house is because what Moses says next. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood from that innocent lamb on the top and the sides of the doorframe and will what? Pass over the doorway. Somebody say a way out. That's your way out. And he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. Now, maybe you're like, Pastor Joel, you told me there was a party, and now there's like blood and destroyers. This is a weird party, man. But isn't it true that some parties start with a struggle? Now, you're like, I don't know. Okay, let me explain. I remember my daughter's 1-year-old birthday party. And it was awesome because on the 1-year-old birthday, you give them cake for the very first time. And my daughter got to eat cake for the very first time, and she's sitting in a little high chair, and she put both hands in the cake. And she was eating it by the fistful. How many of you would like to do that on your birthday now? Like, can I just eat? No forks, just right there. And we had this party. We're all taking pictures. It was a party on her 1-year birthday. All right, but if you were to backtrack 1 year before when my wife Stacy was giving birth to Nora, would she say it's a party or a struggle? A struggle. Can all the moms say amen? And so sometimes parties start with a struggle. And the communion party starts with a struggle because God takes all sin as serious because sin killed his son. And when there's sin, somebody's got to pay, but there's always a way out. And so one night, God passes over Egypt, and everybody who has that innocent lamb's blood on the door frame of their house, God passes over that house so that they could be free from judgment, free from condemnation, free from sin, free from all the consequences of what had happened that was wrong. And so that was their way out. And then God said, every year to the Israelites, I want you to throw a party to celebrate Passover. Somebody say, partay. Party, yeah, you got the tay part. That's good. Come on. Say it like you want to go to the party. Partay. And so he said, once a year, just celebrate this party, celebrate that there was an innocent lamb that paid and you were free from all this stuff. Now, we love to celebrate stuff once a year. We love to celebrate the 4th of July. We love to celebrate Thanksgiving. Come on, Thanksgiving, baby. We love to celebrate Labor Day, even though nobody knows what we're actually celebrating, but steak's on sale. So we're like, okay, I'll have a party. And so we love to celebrate things every year, but sometimes to remember those things that we're celebrating, we do some weird things. Like, for instance, I remember when me and my wife, Stacy, were celebrating our 1-year wedding anniversary. Now, at our wedding, we did the whole, the cake thing. You know the cake thing where, like, you feed each other cake and everybody watches you, which is weird. And that's supposed to be like this sweet moment until the couple tries to murder each other with $1,000 cake. You guys know about this? Okay, you want to see a picture from our sweet cake moment? Okay, look at this picture right here. If you wanted some cake icing, I could probably still get you some. You see what she's doing to my face, you guys? Anyway, she got me way better than I got her. So there's this weird tradition, though, that after your wedding day, you're supposed to freeze part of your cake. And then on your 1-year anniversary, you're supposed to take the cake out of the freezer and eat it. You guys know about this? Okay, so you maybe know about what I'm going to say, all right? So on our 1-year anniversary, we got the cake. We did that. We put the cake in the freezer. We got the cake out of the freezer. We thawed it all day. And we're like, oh, this is our 1-year anniversary. You're happy on your 1-year anniversary. I mean, you're happy. And so, like, we're having this moment. We're remembering our wedding and just, like, having this, like, sweet moment. I'm, just having a moment with my wife. And then we put our forks in this cake. And we go to take a bite of our wedding cake, guys, which costs a lot of money. We go to take a bite on our wedding anniversary. And I put it in there. And the first thing I did was go, Guys, dry heave. It was bad. Did anybody throw away their wedding cake on that 1-year anniversary? You're like, it was bad. There you go. We threw it away and we went to Dairy Queen. And I got a Reese Cup Blizzard because that makes all things better right there. But every December 15th, we sit down and we try to remember what happened on December 15th, 2007. And in the same way, God told the Israelites, hey, I want you to remember every year what happened at Passover, that an innocent lamb paid. And to this day, Jewish families still remember and celebrate Passover. And the reason I think that we can have a communion party is because here's what they're celebrating. They're celebrating that we were slaves, but now we're free. We were lost, but now we are found. We were hopeless, but now we have hope. And we got to celebrate that because we didn't get from here, Egypt, to here, Israel, because of our good works, but because of the power of our God who gave us a way out from judgment. And that is worth partying over. That's worth celebrating once a year. And so that's why they celebrate it. And that's why I think we can have a communion party. Because 1,500 years after Exodus, a guy named Jesus shows up. And Jesus had a nickname, and his nickname was the innocent or the spotless blank of God. Anybody know it? Lamb. Just like in Genesis, just like in Exodus. Now, Do you know what Jesus did every single year of his life? He celebrated Passover. Maybe you've heard of the Last Supper, or you've seen a Da Vinci painting or read a Dan Brown novel or something. Okay, the Last Supper was Jesus celebrating Passover. It was Jesus celebrating that there was sin, but an innocent lamb paid so that we could be free. And whenever the Bible repeats something, and so Jesus celebrated Passover every year, but whenever the Bible repeats something, I know that it's something that's important. And so I want to read to you from the Last Supper some of the verses here, and I want you to count out loud every time you see the word Passover. Okay? Count out loud, all right? You going to do this? Okay. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" 1. He replied, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, the teacher says, my appointed time is near. I am going to, first off, party. I'm going to celebrate the Passover. 2, with my disciples at your house." And so the disciples did as Jesus had directed them and prepared the Passover. 3 times. And so it's like 3 times Matthew was like, hey, don't miss this. Jesus celebrated Passover. Jesus celebrated Passover. Jesus celebrated Passover. And so Jesus sat down with his friends that night for the Last Supper, and he said something that changes everything for me. It changes everything for you. It changes everything for everybody watching online. It changes everything for all of us. And so here's what happened. Matthew 26, starting in verse 26. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it, and he gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is the innocent lamb's body? No, this is my body." And in a moment, we're going to take the communion. When you get the bread, I just want you to know the bread represents Jesus' body. It represents that Jesus came here for us. If you look at all the other religions are about, these are the rules, and this is what you got to do to get to God. But Christianity isn't a religion. It's about a relationship where God says, hey, I know you can't get to me, and so I am going to come to you. And so during the communion, I want you to take the wafer, and I just want you to have a moment where you're like, wow, Jesus, you came here for me. The bread represents his body. And it says, then he took a cup. And when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, drink from it, all of you. This is the lamb's blood. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. And the juice represents Jesus' blood. And by the way, we're a juice church. Maybe you're like, oh, I heard they're having communion. I want to see what kind of church they are. We're a juice church. Just settle down, okay? So we're a juice church. But I don't care if you've been a Christian for 10 seconds or 70 years. I don't care if you're a good person or not good person. It took the same amount of blood to pay for your sins as it did to pay for anyone's sins. And so Jesus said, hey, communion or Passover has always been about remembering the lamb and what it did to pay. Now communion is about remembering me. It's about me. And the bad news is we all fall short of God's standards. But the good news is this. I can sum up in 2 words why we can have a communion party. I can sum up in 2 words why we can keep our head up right now. And those 2 words is this. We'll put it on the screen. Jesus paid. Jesus paid for my sin. Jesus paid for your sin. Jesus paid for every Jesus follower's sin. And Jesus didn't pay some. He paid for it all. Don't you like it when you go to a restaurant and somebody pays for you? Do you like, be honest, you're in church, do you like that? Yes, okay. And don't always at the table, you're like, no, I don't want you to pay for me. Inside, you're like, yes. I should have ordered an appetizer. Yes, okay. Maybe I can get one to go. I don't know. One of my favorite stories about somebody paying for us at a restaurant was when me and Stacy first got married, we went to Pizza King in Millsboro. Come on, Pizza King. And when me and my wife Stacy got married, we didn't have any money. I'm talking like we were so poor, we ate cereal with a fork just to save the milk. I always say that. It doesn't get as much laughter as it gets in me. I think that's really funny. That's not true, but it's funny. Anyway, this is true. We didn't have any money, and so we literally tried to order the cheapest thing on the menu. And so we both got waters, and we got the cheapest thing that they had. And then Stacy's brother, RJ, who was with us, he said, hey, guys, don't worry about it. I'm paying today. I was like, how sweet this sounds. And my wife, no lie, she said to the waitress, I'm going to take a large Pepsi. And can I see the menu again? Because I'm just going to look to see if there's anything else on there I want to grab a hold of. Like, no shame. You can ask her about it. It's true. But when the check came, RJ wasn't like, well, I said I was going to pay. I'm going to cover 10% of it. No. He paid for all of it. And Jesus didn't pay for some of our sin. He paid for all of it. He wasn't like, I'm going to cover 10% of the divorce. I'm going to cover 20% of the addiction, 30% of like spring break. Hello. 40% of Pastor Joel getting into it with a little old lady. No, he said, I'm going to pay for all of it. And so you can keep your head up because Jesus paid. Jesus paid. Jesus paid. Jesus paid. Jesus paid. Jesus paid. Not for some of it. He paid for all of it. And that should get you excited. He paid for all of it. And so we're going to sing that old hymn, Jesus Paid It All. And during this hymn, I just want you to hold the elements. And we're going to take it together. And so, just hold the elements. But during this song, and by the way, if you're watching online, this is a great time to go in your kitchen and grab some bread or some juice or whatever you can to represent the elements. But during this song, I just want you to have a moment where you hold it and you say, Jesus, thank you for paying for all of my sin. I can't help but celebrate that. That changes everything for me. And just have a moment inside. And if you're here and you're not a Jesus follower, and you don't want to take the communion, that's okay. Nobody in this church is going to look at you like you're strange or like you're a second-class citizen. You are always welcome here. That's why we open our doors. And so this is a place where you can feel safe, whether you take communion today or not. But maybe you're here and you're not a Jesus follower, and you want to become one today. And today is the best day to say yes to Jesus. And so today you could take communion for the very first time as a Jesus follower. And so I just want to invite you to that party. If everybody can just bow their heads while the band comes forward. If you're here and you're not a Jesus follower, but you want to accept that Jesus paid for you, all you got to do is say, hey, I accept that. And so we're just going to say some words out loud together. If you're a Jesus follower, would you just say this out loud with me? And if you want to say yes to Jesus today, to take communion as a Jesus follower for the very first time, just repeat this with me. Jesus, I believe you paid. You paid for my sin. And I've fallen short of God's standards, but you paid for that. Jesus, I believe you're the Son of God. I believe you died on the cross for everyone. And today I accept that. And Jesus, today I follow you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Guys, if you just said that prayer, that is amazing, and you're about to take communion for the very first time as a Jesus follower.